Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. If you're wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses indoors, it's because many of you have been emailing me about this company, Zenni Optical, asking about their anti-facial recognition glasses. Personally, when I look at their advertising materials, I am doubtful. These are not necessarily anti-facial recognition glasses or privacy glasses. They simply have something against IR. And something to understand that's very important is that most facial recognition systems that you are going to come into contact with are not actually using infrared. This is very similar to the VPN advertising that would piss me off on YouTube when I would see somebody talk about Ben Shapiro saying that ExpressVPN is going to allow you to take back your data from big tech and companies like Facebook and everything else. And I'm just thinking to myself, when you log in to one of these websites using your real name, an email address that has your real name in it, you share your location with everybody that's on there, you tag where you go, you add all your friends, you share your political views, your opinions, what you're doing for a living, and so on and so forth, and you're using cookies in a stock web browser like Google Chrome, in the same browser that you use to browse everywhere else. Tell me more about how you're taking back your data from big tech because you've hidden your IP. They don't lie. They just withhold the truth. And that's not something that I'm a big fan of. And when I scroll through this webpage and I read the emails that people have sent me, I am getting the idea that many of you are not really reading into this properly to understand that this technology is not going to stop facial recognition. It's just anti-IR. But it makes a really, and they're not lying on the website, but a lot of people are buying this with the idea that it does something it doesn't. So what I wanted to do after buying these glasses with my own money is I'm going to use a program called Image. That is my gallery program that runs on a 2018 Intel Celeron. And I'm going to see if the facial recognition functionality is able to tell that I have these glasses on. If it does, I'll share it with you. If it doesn't, I'm always open to the fact that I could be wrong, but we'll see. I don't think that it's going to stop it at all, but I want to see if it's able to put this picture with the rest of me, given that I do have these weird glasses turned on. I also have face detection on my Sony camcorder. I don't use manual focus, so if this is keeping me in focus, if my face is in focus rather than the boards behind me or something in front of me, then immediately you know that this is not really doing what it says it will. Anyway, so today we're going to be discussing Texas Senate Bill 2420. This is a bill that requires age verification if you wish to download applications from app stores. I want to read some of the concerning elements here. Many people have asked why I don't talk a lot about Texas state politics. I've only been here for 2 or 3 years. I haven't been here for a lot of the stuff that's been proposed, and I did go over the right to repair bill when it came out, which excluded virtually everything, and I'd like to go over why I find this to be concerning. This says the following. The owner of an app store must obtain consent for each individual download or purchase sought by a minor. Not just purchase, but also downloads. So why is this a bad thing? Well, what if I want to download a calculator application that is more advanced than what's on my phone? Or a dictionary? This is not like the state ID verification for watching porn that passed several years ago. This means that I need to now verify my age with the company and divulge my identity and everything else and have them store that data so that I could download a dictionary. Next, the owner of an app store that operates in the state violates this subchapter if the owner obtains a blanket consent to authorize multiple downloads or purchases. So you've right now forbid the most reasonable way to deal with this as a company. Let's say that in the alternate reality where I found somebody stupid enough to have children with me, that I have kids and we've decided that we're okay with our child downloading educational apps. I don't want little Timmy bothering me every single time he wants a different dictionary or a grammar checker or a calculator that makes it a little bit easier to do calculus. I just want him to be able to download anything like that, but I don't want him to download games that have gore and blood in them. I can't have an app store that makes it easier for the parents of little Timmy to say, we'll allow all these educational apps that are just rated G, but nothing else. You have to go to mommy and daddy for every single app. So let's say that you're going through the list and you want to download 5 or 10 different calculator apps to figure out what works best for you. You're going to have to interrupt your parents 10 times. That is annoying. And the way this works with the whole way that you're violating it, if you obtain a blanket consent to authorize multiple downloads or purchases, you've taken away the ability to have categorization, which is very important. Next, when an individual in the state creates an account with an app store, the owner of the app store shall use a commercially reasonable method of verification to verify the individual's age category. So everybody has to undergo this, and importantly, commercially reasonable method is undefined. This could mean an ID upload, it could mean facial recognition, credit card verification, biometrics, and a number of different items. This can mean a lot more than simply showing your state ID. And that is problematic because I may not want to share my biometric information with a company to be able to download a dictionary or a scientific calculator. The data is going to become a target for breaches and government requests. Next, App Store means publicly available internet website, software application, or other electronic service that distributes software applications from the owner or developer of a software application to the user of a mobile device. So we're not just talking about Apple and Google, companies that make over $70 billion in profit annually. We're talking about F-Droid, which is mostly maintained by people that like live in dorm rooms and that just, for lack of a better way to put it, you're not just asking companies to make a lot of money to have to put in place an expensive and a complicated age verification system. You're also asking people that don't even make money. F-Droid does not even charge you. So there are places you can go to get applications like APK Mirror, even GitHub, honestly. Have you ever downloaded an APK off of GitHub before? Is GitHub not a place or an electronic service that distributes software applications from the owner or developer of a software application to the user of a mobile device? Does GitHub now have to implement age verification every time I want to download something? I don't think that this has been fully thought through. This is going to force even open source community-run distribution platforms to implement these types of age verification systems. There's no exception for non-commercial platforms. This is the start of banning alternative app stores from operating in Texas. Now, there were a lot of murmurs years back on how social media is unfair and it's biased and there's no competition, which is why Texas is going to regulate social media to bring back free speech. And I understand the aggravations that could bring this to the front, to the front, right? I understand that. But how does this help here? So the companies that are the gatekeepers for the applications you're allowed to install on your phone, Apple and Google. I'm including Google in there, by the way, because I am convinced within the next 2 to 3 years' time, you will not be able to sideload applications on Google. I've already gone over some of what they're doing in this video over here. You can watch it. The two companies that essentially gatekeep your access to being able to use your mobile computer have app stores that can comply with this. But what about other app stores? Again, F-Droid is an app store. I don't see them raking in billions of dollars. APK Mirror, everything else. I mean, alternative app stores already have to fight with the fact that no matter how much they try, they're likely never going to have more than a few percent market share, if that. Now you're placing the onerous requirement on them that they take part in age verification systems when they're not even charging their customers. Texas law, from what I understand of it, is all about making it easier for businesses to do business in the state so that they can innovate and start up and do new things that they feel too burdened to do in other states. But here, if I wanted to start an alternative application store, let's say I wanted to start an alternative application store that was focused on free speech and all the issues that mattered to the Texas state legislature 1 or 2 years ago, I would actually be better off doing this in any state in the country but Texas. Because in the beginning, I may not have a lot of paying customers, a lot of paying users. I'm going to want to keep my costs down, and Texas is going to require that my costs go up. More importantly than that, if I am operating in the state of Texas, then I have to operate under this law, which means that I need age verification. But if I'm operating outside of Texas, if I have an app store in California or New York City, I don't really care about Texas state law. What are you going to do, prosecute me from another state? I can make my applications available to anybody in Texas without requiring age verification, and the Texas Attorney General would not be able to come after me because I'm not in the state of Texas. So if I wanted to make my products available for free to people in the state of Texas, and I want it to be as friction-free as possible, I would actually have to do business outside the state of Texas to make that happen. That's mind-blowing for me. The developer of a software application shall provide notice to each app store through which the developer makes the software application available before making any significant change to the terms of service or privacy policy, or materially changes the functionality or user experience of the software application. Now, I'm all for not changing the terms of the sale after the sale. I have an entire channel with thousands of videos going over being pissed off at companies that do this. Now, here's the thing about the law, and something important to understand, and this is something that I think the Texas state legislature would understand very well, and they would understand why it is that the business environment in Texas is one that's caused me to stop losing my hair in contrast to New York. When you have a law, right, it's almost impossible to obey the law perfectly over here, right? Like, let's say this is the line that's been drawn. As a business owner, I don't try to stay on the line because I don't know if I'm exactly on the line. I want to stay as far on this side of the line as possible to ensure that I'm in compliance with the law. Because as you've seen, if you've seen any of my videos in the New York State playlist, if there's some jackass inspector, dickhead regulator that wants to try and find a way to fine people just for fun, what they do is when you're standing on the line, they kind of say, from my angle, it looks like you're standing on this side of the line. And they make it miserable for you to do business. And the way to keep it simple is if you really just stay as far from the line as humanly possible. So what I would do if I was a business that was operating an app store in the state of Texas is I would be standing really, really far on that line of every single time this application is getting an update, you're making sure to reauthorize parental consent, which means that little Timmy, every single time his scientific calculator is getting a new update with a new feature, is walking over to his parents and saying, "Mommy, can you click this? Mommy, can you click this?" At which point, it's not going to be utilized the same way anymore. At which point the parents just see it as the way I see a GDPR cookie notice is like, I'm not even reading this, just whatever. And I don't think that that is going to achieve the desired effect. Businesses don't want to deal with a regulatory environment where there is virtually no benefit for them, but potential for risk. So they're going to stay very far on this side. Since kids typically are not the people that are paying tons of money for apps on phones, it's usually adults, they're probably going to be on the side here of, let's just make it so if the update is changed just about anything at all, just make them ask for consent again. Because that way I'm not going to get in trouble with the law. And any significant functional change to an application could trigger a requirement to re-notify app stores. Like think of something like Greyjoy. Like God bless Greyjoy. I love Greyjoy. Kelvin and Kuhn, these programmers, I love these people like they're my own brother. He said over here it's worded broad enough that it could apply to a self-updater. And Greyjoy gets a new update like every 3 to 6 hours. Can you imagine little Timmy running up to you every 3 to 6 hours, tapping you on the shoulder to say, Mommy, can you update Greyjoy? Get out of here with that. This is not going to go over the way that I think it's intended. Now, there are some circumstances under which I may be supportive of something like this. As I've said, Google is really tightening the hatchet with how they deal with Android installing applications, and I would not be surprised in 2 to 3 years if it is as locked down as an iPhone. You guys said you bought an Android phone because it had a user removable battery, had a headphone jack, had a micro SD card slot, could install any application you're choosing, could install an own operating system that you wanted because it had a unlocked bootloader. Like how much of that is still true for the Android phone that you're using right now? One area where I could support this, maybe I'm wrong about the intention of this law. Maybe the intention of this law is very similar to the law on state ID verification when you visit a porn site. See, I've taken a different stance on that since speaking with somebody about this. I'm talking about the age verification law, and he was talking about how he tried to use a VPN to visit a porn site, and it didn't work. And then he learned that the VPN app and the way that he set it up, it was leaking his DNS via IPv6. So the website could still see he was in Texas via IPv6, but it worked on IPv4. And then he figured out how to fix this problem, and he learned about TCP/IP and computer networking because he wanted to download porn, but he couldn't access that porn in his home state without properly learning how to use a VPN without leaking his IP. I think that this might just be an initiative to increase computer literacy. And if that's the case, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is something that I should be for. Because when you think about it, when I grew up in the mid-90s. Using a computer was difficult. If you wanted to pirate something, you were using IRC, DDC bots, and Usenet. It was not like today. You didn't have just a Pirate Bay that you went to if you wanted to pirate something. And when Windows XP service came out, even Service Pack 1, you visited the wrong website with ActiveX, and you instantly had a virus. It was not like today. You needed a serious level of computer literacy to get anything done. You didn't have wireless printing, one touch, none of this stuff. Nowadays, you have iPads and everything like that. You can give your grandma an iPad and she knows how to use a computer. Computer literacy is, in some ways, actually going down as a result of the fact that there isn't that barrier anymore to being able to get things done that you wanted to get done. So if you're going to place these types of barriers in place when teenagers want to install applications, if you're going to place the type of barrier in place to mommy and daddy not being bothered every single time little Timmy gets an update on Greyjoy, then this is a great way to go about it. You're going to incentivize the next generation to become more technically savvy to get around all of this. And if that's the intention of the law and I'm missing something this whole time, maybe Texas is doing it better than everybody else in the country. Maybe Texas is the best computer literacy program there is. You want to watch porn when you're going through puberty? Figure out how to do IPv4 versus IPv6 with no DNS leaking in your VPN. I am going to have to put a disclaimer here because from what I learned from the Brendan Carr video that I did is that there are a lot of people out there for whom there are warnings on toothpaste. There are people out there that no matter how much I try to hold in laughing and fail at it, think I'm serious. Just in case, I think this is a bad idea. I don't think this is well thought through at all, and I think it could have horrible consequences. And I think it could actually lead to Texas being seen as an anti-business state in a very bad way. If you want to have, you can't be the state, in my opinion, that wants to see more social media platforms with more free speech, but also make it more difficult for app stores to open in your state. At the same time that there's massive consolidation among the two companies that essentially gatekeep your access to the entire mobile computing world. Dumb to think about. I hope this gets looked at before it goes into action. I personally will find a way around it. There's absolutely no way in hell that I'm taking a selfie or showing my ID to install an application on my phone. And to me, that's just crazy. Like, I just want you to imagine living in a world where you download an exe file. Like, it doesn't, for the people that grew up in the 80s, the 90s, and even the 2000s, you're downloading a program onto your computer, and it asks you for your ID in order to install the. Like, imagine you're installing Winamp, and it asks you for your ID. That's not a world that I want to live in. I don't think this bill is a great idea. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll let you know how this works in the next few videos. I'm going to be traveling to Denver tomorrow to see if we can hold the mayor of Denver. I just said the mayor of Colorado. I need to get something to eat. Mayor of Denver accountable and responsible for breaking the law in the implementation of cameras against the will of the people. And we'll probably hear from me in the next week on whether or not these actually work or do anything. Let's see. Does my camera even care? Because I can see it trying to guess what my face is in real time. It's following me perfectly. Yeah, I'm 99% certain that these do absolutely nothing. And this is very similar to the type of marketing that you'll see for ExpressVPN on Ben Shapiro's show, where it's just pretty much, they're not lying to you. Everything they're saying about the VPN is true. They're not lying. They're just withholding the truth while painting a picture that people who are not perfectly technically savvy will get a message from it that will more likely result in them getting a commission. I hate that shit. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye now.